topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome to Success Secrets Exposed with Sally A. Curtis, where we share stories of challenge, success, and inspiration along with practical tips and strategies to move you forward to your success. And now, here's your host, Sally A. Curtis.
Good evening, good morning, and good day to you all. Welcome to another great show. Today we're going to be talking about clarity in conversation. And I have a fabulous guest for you today. So for those that are new to the show, I'm a marketing strategist and growth expert for speakers, coaches, and consultants. And I specialize in content repurposing and LinkedIn strategy. And it's my role to amplify your voice, your message, and your impact. So we're going to be talking a lot today about influence and impact. And I have a very, very special guest, as I said, Barbara Ellison, who is a speaker, author, and your personality pro. She's also the CEO of Trends in Marketing Enterprises, and she's absolutely on a mission to make happiness the norm instead of the exception. Barbara believes that happiness is part of being able to increase your impact as well as your influence and your income. And she works with heart-centered entrepreneurs to help them transform their messages as it relates to attracting, connecting, and converting their ideal target market. Now, Barbara is a host and a co-host on multiple shows of her own, as well as a favored guest on many, many podcasts. So it's an absolute pleasure to have her here today. So please help me welcome Barbara Ellison to the show.
Well, hi there, Sally. How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. I mean, to think here we are across the world and we're able to talk to each other.
That's exactly right.
It's absolutely amazing.
Many benefits coming out of the ability to connect at a global level. So thank you so much for joining us too. And as you can already gather, folks, it's going to be a high energy show today. So sit back and enjoy. So Barbara, can I start by asking you the first question, which is the backstory question. How did you become the personality pro? Tell us the backstory.
You know, it's actually starts with a bit of a tragedy, because 10 years ago I lost my husband, and at that moment when he passed away, I went through all the process and the fog that comes along when you've had a traumatic loss. And the day I woke up from that fog, I kind of was like a light bulb moment that I looked and it was like I looked inside myself and realized that who was I outside of all the labels that I had put on myself over the years, of being a wife, and then being a mother, being a divorced woman, so a failure, but then a wife again, and then a grandmother, and now I'm a widow. Who was Barbara in all of that? And right at that moment, Sally, was a moment of awakening that I had no idea. And at that moment, I now know felt living somebody else's life.
Yeah.
I just didn't, because I didn't know who I was. I had been going through the motions, and I was 60 years old going through the motions. And so I set out on a journey to find out who I was. And so one thing, I started with a coaching program called the Ultimate Game of Life, which was amazing. And just from there, and I can look back now, Steve Jobs says you can only see the progress by looking back to see all the stepping stones that you stepped on, coming forward. And then one of the times I was at one of these classes, and Jerry Tree was one of the speakers, and she talked about personality science.
Yeah.
And it lit me up. I was like, wow, this is going to be huge. So I became a trainer. And so, but I have to admit, and I'm very honest with people, is that I tell people that at the beginning, I only did it just to know it and to use it for my own use.
Yeah.
To make it, to understand people better, the people around me, my children, my grandchildren, those kinds of things. And so that's what I did. But then last year, with all that happened last year, the company itself had to pivot. Yeah. Well, they came out with an online program.
Yeah.
And that was the cat's meow for me.
Yeah. Nice.
And I realized that I just love doing personality science. So now as I said, I've started shows and I talk about personality. I go on podcasts and talk about personality because I am your personality. Personality drives reality. It impacts every area of your life. Doesn't matter whether you're talking to yourself. How often do we beat us up to the person that's sitting across from us or the person lying beside us at night?
Yeah.
All of those things are impacted by personality. Well, my question to most people, especially if they're in business, is if you know that you have a personality, do you think your messaging has a personality?
Very true.
Yeah, it does. And it tends to have yours.
Yes.
And so what I share it tends to have yours because it's yours. It's your messaging. So what I share with people is that there are 7 billion people on the planet. And there's over 3,500 languages, but there's only 4 basic personality styles. And we most of us know that because most people in business have done some type of personality assessment, whether DISC, the color wheel, MBTI, the elements, the gems, the jewel, animal, whatever it is that they have done, but they're always 4 things. There's always the 4 because there is 4 basic personality styles. And so I can look back on my life and go, oh, well, that's why I lost so many sales. Because you know what? When I was in sales, I had 1 presentation.
Yeah.
Well, if there's 4 personality styles, do you think it would make sense to have 4 presentations? That does.
It does.
And so now it has absolutely, and so like with now, I've really realized that I want to work with speakers, speakers who want to connect more with their audience. And, we all will have part of the audience that you're going to connect with. But what my goal is to have speakers who connect with the part of the audience that's going to be like them, they're going to absolutely hear their voice. But I also want them to understand that they can have a message that will resonate with the rest of the audience who might not be their ideal client, but who will feel comfortable enough to give you a referral to somebody who is. When you can resonate with more people by addressing your messaging to have little bits of all 4 of the personalities in them.
Yeah, perfect.
And that just kind of exploded in my head.
Yeah, I can imagine. I just was going to ask you as it related to that, and you just slightly touched on it, as it relates to doing a presentation when you need to do your presentation based on the 4 personalities. So it sounds as though it was a case of weaving little elements through the presentation. Is that what I just heard talking about through then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because the things that each personality, number 1, they all leave clues.
Yes.
Each personality values different things. And we can talk about what each one, and I can give you little tidbits of how to recognize each one of the personalities. So when you're talking, if you can address little bits of each one of them, you're going to resonate with, because they're going to say, oh, me. And the statistics that I share with people is that, over 25 years ago, the Sally group, they did a survey of why people buy. What makes people buy things, whether it's a course, whether it's a car, whatever people buy, and what will trigger the yes or tripwire the no.
Yeah.
So they did this whole study. Well, they found out that only 18% of people will buy from someone that is not their personality match.
Is that right? Wow.
The other, only 18%. The other 82% will. And once I made the connection between that 82%, and you know what we call it now? The know, like, and trust factor.
Yeah.
People buy from people who they know them, that they're talking to them in their language, the way they want to be talked to, and you are giving them the things that they want to know about your company. And in the way that they want out about it. And in the order that they want to hear about it. Because it's not about you as a person, the sales professional. So that's one of the things that so many businesses and companies, like, hey, I was in sales for a lot of years and I learned a lot of sales techniques, but never once did they teach me that, what's going to make my customer buy from me?
Yeah. And
now that's what they've shown that we can do. We can find out what will trigger a sale or the yes, depending, because it doesn't have to necessarily be a sale. It can be to convince your child to make his bed in the morning. It's an enrollment conversation, and that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, beautiful. So can you give us some examples based on that enrollment conversation? Some examples of what it looks like when it goes wrong. Perhaps use a child example and then a business example of what it looks like, which is common for most of us when it goes wrong, and what it looks like when it goes right.
Right.
Sounds like.
Okay. I'll tell you a personal story. My late husband and I, when we got married, we were going on our first trip, and we were planning to fly from Chicago to LA, rent a car, drive across the desert, because he was a very visual person, and we were going to go let him see the lights of Las Vegas from the mountains coming in at night to get the visual of the lights. Okay, so I came home from work one day and he was sitting on our living room floor surrounded by maps and atlases. And I said, honey, what are you doing? I'm planning our trip. And I looked at him and I said, what trip? He said, what do you mean, what trip? The one we're going to fly into LA, we're going to rent a car, we're going to drive across the desert so I can see the lights of lights. Yeah. And I said, honey, I understand that trip. We're doing that in November. This is August. What are you doing? August. We're going in November. He's the planner. Well, he looked up at me and said, well, he was the planner. He looked up at me and he said, well, when are you, slight attitude. He looked up at me and said, well, when are you going to figure out how we're going to go from LA? I said, it rental car in LA. He was in shock. He had no concept of doing something that major to him with no plan. In his mind, there was no plan. Yeah. And over the year, and it became a funny thing, and most people laugh or they smile and I can relate to that. And over the years, we came to appreciate that in each other. But do you think that played out in other parts of our marriage?
Totally. Yeah.
That weren't quite so funny. So now, lots of time, if I'm a business, okay, so now say you have 2 employees. One is like my husband and one is like me. Do you think there's going to be contention?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, there is. And that's why it is so important.
Yeah.
So that you can have teams, because and as I tell you about each one of the codes, you'll understand, your audience will understand that each one has its place. We need all 4 of them because we are all 4 of them. We're not just one. We are a part of all 4, but we tend to have a dominant one, but we are all 4. And so you can have a friend of mine, she said employees had a cat fight, and then they did their profiles and went, oh, that's why.
Yeah. Self-realization.
And that's what happens.
Yeah. So can you go through the 4 profiles with us really quickly, just to give us an overview?
Sure. Well, okay. My tool is called Bank, and it's from a company called Codebreakers Technologies, and I love it. It is and that's what I love about it. So the Bank, it's an acronym. B stands for Blueprint. The Blueprint people, they tend to be the traditional people. They're the ones that have structure and they have processes. It could be a little bit more conservative. They're the ones that like lists. Those kinds of things. We always think of them, the analogy we use, we always think of them as kind of being inside the box.
Yep.
They like tradition. They don't change. They don't like risk, and they don't like to change. They're very organized. Okay. Then you get people. They're the outside of the box. They're the ones that they value freedom and VIP treatment, and they just love to have no structure. They hate bosses. They're the entrepreneurs, the speakers. They're the really out there kind of people, the visionaries. They're the ones they're the ideal. Then you have so that's the A. So they're out of the box. Well, the nurturers, that's the N. They want to recycle the box.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that they want to be part of a community. They want to have authentic communication with the people around them. They're the ones that work for nonprofits. They volunteer. They're the backbone of America. Yeah. They're also the one that spends the most amount of money on personal development because they want to just help other people to make a difference in the world. Yeah. And they're like the hard gold. So they want to recycle the box in our box analogy. But then you have the knowledge people. They're the geekies. They're the geeks. I have 2 of them. I have 2 geeks, and several of my grandchildren are too, which is great. But they're the data people.
Yes.
They're the ones that value science and self-mastery, and they want to know everything, and they will consume pages and pages and books and hours and hours, and all they love to do research. Okay. So now say you have a company that you have a team that's supposed to be doing something, and you only have action people and nurturing people. Are you going to get anything done? No.
Well, because you need all activity.
You'll have a lot of activity with nothing getting done. Because when you have a company, you must have the visionaries. You must have the people that are the idea people. Oh, let's do this. But they have no idea how to implement it. So they need the blueprint people to say, hey, you know what? No, not the blueprint people. They need the knowledge people first to do all the research. Is this viable? Is this feasible? Are we going to be able to do it? Is it going to be all of these things that the data people, that all the data to support of what the visionary wants to do? Yeah. Is there data to support it? But then you have to have the blueprint people that are going to take all that data, put it into a process that's going to work. That's a cookie cutter step by step that every employee can get behind and do. okay, Sally, this is your job. You do this, 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 and this. The visionary people don't know how to do that.
No.
And the K people love them dearly, but they're not necessarily totally people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. They tend to be a little bit of a wallflower. Their people skills, they're great among themselves. They're not totally great with other people.
Yeah.
But then you need to have the nurturers who are going to take the vision, all the data, and the process, and then they're the ones that are going to say, how is this going to impact the world? And more companies are realizing that more people will do business with companies who are making a difference in the world than with companies who are not.
Correct. Yeah.
So you need all four of them. So that's why I love to work with companies and to work with speakers to get the message out that this is so important, because they will take their field expertise and attract more people, because now they've got it for codes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So that's kind of,
Yeah. Just going to ask you one quick question, but we'll go to the break. And that,
sure.
I'd love to ask you this question, because it's such a curious question for me, and it was something that you said when we were talking. You sent it across, which is one of your greatest learnings was don't build your business on somebody else's platform. So I'm going to ask you that question. We're going to go to a very, very quick break, and I'll get you to answer that when we come back, which I look forward to. Thank you.
Perfect.
To get the word out on your business, you might consider hitting the streets in a chicken costume. What is it about the feathers and floppy orange feet that makes people more open to taking those flyers off your hands? The answer is pity, and not an interest in what the flyer you're handing out is actually selling. Not so with what your ad with AT&T Advertising Solutions is selling, because nothing can beat its power to reach potential customers at the exact moment they're trying to reach you. AT&T Advertising Solutions. To advertise, call 1-800-GET-REAL.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free.
Are you a speaker, coach, or consultant wanting to increase your reach and impact? Need to save time and leverage your resources? Content repurposing is the fastest way to increase your visibility, credibility, and profitability online and reach your audience with ease. You already sit on a mountain of gold that is highly valuable to your audience. It's in your books, training manuals, articles, and presentations. We regularly turn clients' books into 12 to 24 months worth of content. Let us turn your existing content into visually stunning, bite-sized content tiles. Content repurposing is the easiest way to turn your past into profits. Turn your existing content into bite-sized glitter that you can sprinkle everywhere with ease to attract your ideal audience. Let us amplify your voice, your message, and your impact. Find out more at sallyacurtis.biz.
Awesome. So I'm super excited to hear about your greatest learning, which is not to build your business on somebody else's platform. So please do tell us the story behind that statement.
I found that out the hard way. You know, these days with so many people getting into direct sales, into net marketing, into affiliate marketing, it's, you know, and all of those things are good. Absolutely. Absolutely. We need them. However, the hard way, that don't only do one, you know, don't build your business in somebody else's platform. I was doing a company and was starting to really get traction, was really enjoying it. The thing is, though, then they got shut down. I literally lost everything. Lost everything. And then in the process, I had to declare personal bankruptcy because I lost everything. because I was building it in their platform. And when their platform wasn't there anymore, I lost it all. Yeah. One of the things that I have realized now is that one of the things that I work with people is, who are you within what you do? Okay. Yeah. And it is so important, because that who are you within what you do is you can differentiate yourself between yourself and what tool is. So like with me, my tool is bank. I love it, but it's not me. I am your personality pro. I teach people how to impact their personality in their messaging, in their speaking, in their relationships. That's that's me. The tool that I use to help them to do that is bank. Absolutely love it. And what happens so often is people, in fact, a friend of mine and I, we were talking about it this morning. She was in an organization and people were getting to know her. Oh, you're that lady. And she said, no, that's not me. That's who I'm associated with. And that's what she came to, that same realization. So that's what happens lots of times to distributors. And there's nothing against any of the companies, but don't only use that company. And so lots of times people will have their tag, their URL with the name of the company and then their code type of thing at the end of it, rather than having their own, like, I am your personality pro, and my website is Be Connected Fast. So because you have to have your own identity within what you do. Yeah. Because when you have your own identity, that's what's going to set you apart. Yes. What's going to be unique from every other distributor or every other whatever it is that you're in. What if you're a life coach, you're a business coach, if you're a grief coach, if you are a yoga teacher, who you are within what you do, that who you are is what is going to set you apart, and that's what people are going to follow, because they're going to hear your voice.
And I think that's such an important thing to really say. So I'm really glad you shared that today, because it's so easy for I'm going to say women, but I think everybody does do it. But because I work with a lot of women, we lose our identity so easy. So we sort of almost hand over that power in some instances. And that's what I'm hearing through that scenario. It's to know who you are, who's your identity, who's your personality, and then utilize the tools, whatever those tools are, whether it's setting up a business, whether it's a direct sales business, or whether it's a combination of those, whether it's setting up whatever you're doing with your family. Remain strong and powerful in your own identity, and understand that the things around you are not your identity. They're actually tools that help your identity and personality shine.
Exactly. And the thing is that when you know who you are, your tools can, like in my case, if I had known who it was, I could have just changed tools, but I didn't know. Yeah, so
and I think that's a common conversation for women. Yeah, it is very, very huge. Is that when there's that self-discovery and going through the motions to really dig deep and find out who we are, what we love to do, what we're naturally gifted at, and what makes our heart sing. Because there's so many people go, what do you enjoy? And you forget when you lose your identity.
Right. Right. And even just, and it's a process. Even this morning, I was talking to one of my mentors who is helping me do a gift giveaway. And we were talking about our niche market. And I said, well, I want to work with heart-centered entrepreneurs. He said, well, yeah, but who within that? Yeah. And it made me stop for a second. I went, oh, yeah, I want to work with speakers. I want to work with speakers who want to impact their audience, and people who do presentations, to get their presentation to that it can address all four of the codes that are in the room. And so to grow their audiences.
Because it's based on their code.
Yes, they want different things.
They want different things.
Like
yeah,
like the blueprints, they want to know, right, the blueprints from a business standpoint. They want to know about your process. They want to know about your credentials, and they want to know that you are a stable company. So you tell them all those things, plus a lot of other things, and that's what I teach. But we can't go into them all here. The action people, if you're talking to them, they want to know that you got to sell them the sizzle. They want to know they want to talk about the opportunity, and they do not want to sit through long presentations, get to the bottom line and tell me how much, what's my investment?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. The nurturers, they want everything that you're going to do to make a difference in the world. What are you going to do to your company so it impacts children or world hunger or the environment or cleaning up the ocean, or whatever, feeding the whales, whatever it is. Yeah. Look at what's the company that sells socks, that they, for every pair of shoes, they donate socks. People will pay money. Yeah, I can't think of the name of it or something or other like that. But people pay more money for a product when they know part of it is going to go to a charitable cause that they can get behind. Yeah. The knowledge people, they want to know all your research. All the research that has been done. They want to know about the white papers that have been written. They want to know about articles that have been written about you from other people, not from the company, but from other people.
Yeah.
Because they want to do all their research. They want to do they will do due diligence. And when you have somebody that says to you, I need to think of the K people, they really are. The thing is with the K people, you can't sell to the K people. You have to give them enough information that they will make a decision that, wow, this is the best thing since sliced bread. They have to sell themselves. But you have to give them enough information, enough data to get them to that point. And then once you get them to that point, then they will tell everybody no. Everybody else that's okay. They'll tell because they know they've done their due diligence.
Absolutely. So that's where you get your greatest advocates from. And I think that's just listening to the scenario there. It relates very much to how websites or sales pages need to be adaptive based on the type of person that's reading it. So I'll share my way of doing it. I go to the top. What's the title? What are the key benefits? Straight down to the bottom to what's the price, and then if it looks good, it's the right price, I'll then start reading the information because I'm an action person.
Exactly.
So if you've got a website and you've got lots of wording that's set up with statistics, etc., for your knowledge people, you have to have a button at the very top that enables
those in the middle
people to go down to the bottom because that's what they want to know. But you need the statistics in there for the knowledge people and the blueprint.
For the knowledge people.
The blueprint people want to know, well, step 1's this, step 2's this, step 3's this, and that's how we create the income. And then they want, the nurturers want to hear from, and I'm going to say testimonials here, not written ones, but actually video ones. Where the nurturers are going to hear it from other people, but they want to be able to see that person. They want to be able to connect with their body language. They want to know that it's true, and they'll reflect it differently. So understanding the different personality types and knowing how and where to bring that into your sales tools, because we've talked about tools. Obviously, speakers, coaches, and consultants generally have brochures and websites, etc. So it's having these tools set up that you've got all of the elements to capture all of the 4 personality types, and it's adaptive enough that it can move and adapt based on how that personality profile is going to absorb a website, read a brochure, etc., and all those sorts of things. So can you reference back potentially some of the other tips as it relates to the sales approach styles with clients? Because there's a couple of things here. You've talked about enhancing audience engagement, obviously through it as well, harmonizing relationships in general, but it's also a very strong opportunity to increase your sales opportunity and your conversion opportunities. So what are some of the other ways people can utilize the information?
Well, Well, when you can talk to, one of the big things is if you are a person that does presentations, and I try to have people find out ahead of time, and I give them a specific script of how to get them to what we call crack their code. Because people will say, well, how do you find out what their code is? Well, you ask them. It's like kind of going to an ATM. You ask the ATM for money, you put in your PIN code, and the money comes out.
Yeah.
Asking them for their personality code, because people love to know about themselves.
Yes.
So when you know that someone is an action person first, you know that when you are presenting your business, you're going to tell them all about the sizzle. You're going to tell them that they're going to have VIP treatment. You're going to tell them all about the opportunity. And so when you can do that, it's like to use a language analogy, you're speaking English to that A person. But now, if you take what you just said to the A person and say it to an N person, it's like you're talking a foreign language. It's like you're talking to them in French. They're not understanding you, and they're not going to relate to you. And so the same thing that if you know English and if you know action and you know nurturer, you've just added 100% because you've now added 2 languages. So now you also learn how to talk to a K person. Now you've added 200% to your conversion rate. So now, and now you've learned how to speak bank. Now you've learned how to speak blueprint. Well, now you've added 300% to your conversion. Because we're back to the same analogy. Only 18% of people will buy from somebody who is not their personality match. And one day I was doing an interview with a sales guru. And so I said to him, so, what's your good close rate? And he said, about 30%. And I said, great, that is your 25% that's like you, plus your little piece of the 18% that will buy from somebody that's not your match.
Yeah.
Absolutely stopped him. He went, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I said, so now say you took your same 25% and added the other codes. Where do you think your closing rate will go? He went, oh, yeah. And the light bulb went on.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely the truth. So if you can just increase, even if you like, what I teach them is the velocity. That if you increase your leads, your deal value, and the number of times that you do it, and then divide it by, if you can shorten the length of time that it takes you to do it, you will skyrocket. That's one of the things that one of the tools we use to teach. But can I tell you 2 other statistics?
Yeah.
Right now, according to Salesforce, this is not bank or anything, this is Salesforce. They say that 87% of sales professionals do not feel prepared for their presentations.
Yeah.
And the other statistic is 66% of people are turned off by the sales presentation. So right now, only doing one presentation, you're in that statistic.
I'm just going to share just something, and you've just reminded me of an example I've had this week where I've gone into a sales meeting, and myself, my partner, and the other person in the room are pretty much action, a little bit of blueprint, but we're predominantly action and knowledge. No, actually, I think we're mainly action. So from that, based on the way the body language around the table. So the gentleman was going through his presentation. He was clearly knowledge. So I'm sitting there as his staff, and I love
too many details.
I love statistics, and I love, because I've just busily written up those ones down, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, and he's going, and we've got the monotone voice, and I'm sitting there, and all I'm wanting to do is go. And I remember doing this to my dad, because my dad is the same personality. So Dad would walk slowly and he'd be talking, and I'd be going, "Come on, hurry up!" along behind him, move along. And I'm sitting in this meeting going, "Come on, hurry up!"
Yes,
and
exactly.
rude enough to watch,
Exactly.
to look at my clock or to look at my phone, but it was like, come on, man, because he just wasn't, as you say, he wasn't talking our language. It was interesting, but it was French, and I didn't want to speak French that day. I wanted to speak English or German or something different. It was just like,
something different.
Yeah,
Yes,
so it's
exactly.
so relevant.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah,
and that's what happens to teams. You get, if like, one of the things that I suggest for people is to get a team together, get 2 of each code, then give them a task. Most companies put the team together, or they pick up that they get the task, and then they put the team together. Well, no, that doesn't work. You got to have the team together so that they know, so that they can work together. Then give them the task, and then, okay, this is the task. Sort it out. Figure it out. Let's.
Because it enables
it makes them to actually, so much more sense when you do it that way.
Because it enables them to actually
come from
do the task versus try to work out how to work with each other. So they've actually already worked out how they can work with each other. You give them the task, so then you've got speed to market, speed to efficiency, and potentially leverage, because they trust enough to be able to work collaboratively together. Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Right. And then once they do it the first 1 or 2 times, then they become like a well-oiled machine. And if you can get the whole company doing that, and like if you have a company that does the personality assessment, the whole company, you will find out that, that person's totally in the wrong job. Oh, that person shouldn't be they're on the wrong team, or that person should be at the front end greeting everybody because they're an action person, or they're a nurturer that they just want to help everybody to be just, oh wow.
Yeah.
And that happens to companies because they implode.
Yeah. And I see a lot of teams put together, particularly entrepreneurial teams and startup teams, is that they because we all know like attracts like, but they all end up being a very similar personality profile, and they're not getting stuff done because they haven't got their opposing ones that actually support them. And they wonder why they're not getting anywhere, their ideas, and they've got no implementation. So I see that a lot with entrepreneurs and startups, because they don't understand having the capacity of all 4 profiles that can then work together with each other. Yes, they'll irritate each other if they don't understand each other's language.
That's what I was just going to say. They irritate each other, but they need it. Like one of my gals, that at the beginning it was like, am I really going to be able to work with this girl? Oh.
Yeah.
But then I realized, because she was totally my opposite, but she has spurred me on because she's an action girl. And nurturers don't tend to it rubs them a little bit the wrong way, because we just want to be just soft and just let everybody and not talk about money.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but now she spurred me on to like, well, if she can do it, I can do it, kind of thing. So, and
I just want to, it's really valuable having that opposing personality. And I say opposing because it very much feels like that for a lot of people when they're first discovering the benefits of working with the right personality profiles. And I'll use myself as an example. I've traditionally always had 3 of the personality profiles and left the one out that annoyed me the most. Which interestingly enough was the systems person and the steps and processes person. And in the last 2 years, I've been coached by those personality profiles and also brought them into my business. And that is why now everyone says to me, oh, Sally, you're so good at systems and you're so good at organizing things. And I have to say it was a learned skill because of the people around me. And I was ready at a time that I wanted to have that in my business. But they were the people that I left out of my business and didn't associate with because they annoyed me, because they weren't fast enough. They slowed the process down because they wanted to make sure the steps were all right. But when you realize that you need all 4, that's when the magic happens in business. So I think that's a really great thing to touch on. Have you got any sort of final thoughts there, Barbara? Things to share?
What you just said is absolutely a gem. And I hope people, your audience will get it. When you said you learned how to do it. It is a skill that can be learned, and you can learn. It just takes time, and there's a willingness to say, okay, fine, I need to learn this. Absolutely. You can learn it. It's a skill.
Yeah, very much so. And I think too, that's the important thing, because you talked at the as a way of recapping, you talked at the beginning about the labels that you had, and you also talked about how we do, and I just saw Peter's message just come up, how you talked about pigeonholing people into the labels that they've got. And when people get absorbed into the personality profiling or profiling in general, they say, but I'm a this and I'm a that and I'm a this. So again, they're pigeonholing themselves versus knowing the game that they lead with and how the other elements are actually within them as well, and how that all transcends.
That they support them.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about
it all supports it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
So, I was just going to say, just share very quickly about the paradigm of, yes, knowing this information, but not pigeonholing yourself, and understanding that you are actually a blend of all of them, but you just lead with one thing, and you can learn the skills of the others. So, and that's about not pigeoning yourself and saying, I'm only a this.
Right. Okay. I'll tell you about me. When you do one of our personality assessments, you've done it, and you got a readout of your strengths, of everything that makes you you. Okay, so now with me, my blueprint part, that's the part of me that doesn't like to be late. The action part of me is my bright red lipstick, I have red toenails, and I wear blingy earrings. That's my action part. My nurturing part is, I like to hug people and don't ever lie to me. Be authentic, because I'll see through you. My A part of it. But my K part of me, I love gadgets and science fiction. We are part of all of the codes. We are a complete person. It's like us trying to say, well, I can't like my eye because I'm not an ear. Well, no, that doesn't work. You're a complete person, and there's parts of each one. So what I do is when somebody has done their personality assessment, okay, now I want you to go back and study it. Pick out a couple of things that make you in that code. Pick out the things that you identify with in that code. Then pick out the part that's your blueprint. Pick out the part that's your A. Pick out the part that's your N, and the part that's your K, because you have a little bit of everything. And that's who you are. And then quit beating yourself up for the things that you're not, and celebrate the things that you are.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
don't worry about the rest.
Yeah, that great thing. I think that's the whole thing. Celebrate who you are. That your personality profiling tool is just going across the bottom of the ticker. Yeah. So that's HTTPS // personality pro 2. So for those that are wanting to discover what their bank code is and what their mix is, it's a freebie, and it gives you a chance to discover yourself that little bit more. So a great opportunity for you to do that. As Barbara says, I've done mine, and it does give you a great insight into yourself. But the insight for me was also around how I'd had excluded the persons that I needed in my business most to create the growth that I have in the last couple of years. So for anyone that's looking to understand themselves and understand perhaps what's holding their business back, by looking at the team or the support people that you've got around you, another really great asset for you to discover more about your opportunities of self and others. So Barbara, thank you very, very much for sharing so much with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're most welcome. So for those that also want to know, it's called Bank, BANK. And I don't have the tagline written down, which is Bank. You can take it to the bank. Can you just share the tagline of that, please?
And you can take it to the bank. That's the key. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So
take it to the bank.
Take it to the bank.
Because it impacts your bottom line.
Absolutely. So a total advocate for it. Again, thank you very, very much for joining us. Next week's show, we have a very, very special guest as well, which is Nicola Lipscomb. And we're going to talk about listening and very, very heart-centered approach to being able to connect and listen to people differently from the inside out. And for those that know Nicola, you know how warm and generous and gracious she is. So that will be an exceptional show for you next week. So thank you so much again, Barbara. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And we'll do a big wave and say, see you all again next week. Thank you very much.
See you. Bye-bye.
That's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I trust you got some inspirational tips to move you forward. See you next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern for more Success Secrets Exposed.